Yeah. Good evening, and welcome to the City of Warrenville Public Works and Infrastructure Committee of the Whole regular meeting. It is Monday, February 11th, 2019. A roll call, please.
Alderman Ashour.
Here.
Alderman Berry.
Here.
Alderman Bevere.
Here.
Alderman Davalos.
Here.
Alderman Goodman.
Here.
Alderman Hoffman.
Here.
Alderman Widener.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. If you'd now please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The next item is citizens' comments. If you would like to say anything, anyone here would like to say anything regarding the items that are on the business of the meeting, you're welcome to get up at that time and make a comment about that item. Next, we have official and staff comments. Mayor?
Just one thing this evening, Wednesday, February 27th at 6 p.m. will be the annual State of the City address here at City Hall. Everyone is invited. It's a good time to catch up with what's happened in the past year, what we anticipate in the coming year, visit with your friends and neighbors, visit with other elected officials and staff who will be here. So put it on your calendar. Everyone, again, is welcome. That's Wednesday, February 27th, 6 p.m., 6 to 6:30 is our little social half hour, and then at 6:30 the presentation begins. It usually takes about a half hour. So come on down.
Thank you. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was at a meeting last week, Agency on Aging, and it was given by Northeastern Illinois. There were many representatives from DuPage County, the state of Illinois, and they talked about the critical services and their impact on older adults in our communities. And so I had a chance to brag about Warrenville. The main topic was social isolation for seniors. They're homebound, they can't get out for various reasons. And I started writing down all the things that we provide in Warrenville and told the group. And just to put it out there again, the Park District provides the senior trips, the day trips for seniors. Yes, there's a cost, but sometimes they can make an adjustment if someone can't afford it. They have the Tuesday lunch time for seniors, and that's an opportunity for a minimum amount of money for somebody to come out and have some social time with other people. We have the Acorn bus service for our seniors and those who maybe don't drive anymore. They have the I We Alone project through the police department, where they call the people on their list. You have to register for it. We encourage people to do that. And then they'll call and make sure that you're okay. And I know the fire department checks on people who are on oxygen, especially during a power outage, if it's going to be for any length of time. And then there was somebody there from the Meals on Wheels that is very reasonable. And the thing I learned about that was, yes, it's a financial, you have to register and you have to be eligible for it, but you can also pay for it. If you don't want to cook anymore, it's $7 a meal. And it's a warm meal. I'm thinking about that once in a while. I'm going to have to see what the registration is. But if you can't or don't want to cook, I don't know how often, but something through DuPage County to check into. So I was pleased that we offer a lot of services for our seniors in Warrenville, and got a chance to brag about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman? Alderman Goodman?
Thank you. I wanted to announce a District 200 event that's coming up this weekend on February 20th. They've been promoting it like crazy, so I might as well help them promote it. They're showing a documentary called Like, which is about the impact of social media on children's lives. And they're really encouraging parents in the district to come out and see this. They're offering free tickets if you just register on the District 200 website. That's going to be, I think, sort of a noonish start time over at the movie theater in Wheaton, the Studio Movie Grill, on February 20th. And secondly, I want to express my own appreciation and the appreciation that has been passed on from a lot of other Warrenville residents to all the Public Works Department snowplow drivers who've been doing such an excellent job in all of this nasty, awful, snowy, icky, cold weather. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and Administrator?
I don't have anything to add tonight. I don't think staff has anything to add tonight either. Thank you.
Okay. Now on to the business of the meeting. We have a presentation by Public Works for their 2020, FY 2020 budget. And that'll be done by Phil Kugler. Phil.
This is on, good. Good evening. As I reflected on this year's budget presentation, I started thinking about what Public Works does. And one of the things we do is we support our various customers. And we've got, in my mind, 3 big groups of customers we support. The most obvious one is the residents, and that's our largest group of people we support. And a lot of our day-to-day operations are centered around supporting the residents, whether it be serving them with water, serving them with sanitary sewers, plowing the streets, that kind of stuff. And those are not what I'm going to cover in my presentation today, because those are everyday operations. This presentation is going to be focused more on my Public Works work plan, which is project related. The second group is economic development. We help to support that. And that's really relates to future residents, future business owners, and that kind of stuff. And a lot of the way we help support or facilitate the economic development relates to providing utility extensions and make sure there's capacity there for those future residents and future businesses to connect to be able to flush their toilets and drink their water and all that stuff. And then finally, we also support the other departments in the city. We support the other departments in the city. And usually that's primarily, we've got 2, our vehicle maintenance supervisor and our facility maintenance supervisor pretty much support city staff, and that's all. They have internal customers. But the rest of us do support, like we're working with the finance department, the other departments on the ERP and things like that. So as I structure my presentation, I'm going to focus on the fiscal year 2019, current fiscal year, with those 3 groups in mind. And then I'm going to move on to fiscal year 20 and what we've got looking ahead for next year with those 3 groups in mind as well. So with that, I'm going to start with how we supported the residents in 2019. We've got a series of road projects that are either construction or design. So we constructed the 2018 road program last year during the summer. Currently, we're putting together the bid documents for the 2019 road program, and that's a staff-led effort with some assistance from a consultant, because this year the road program is primarily emerald green, and there's going to be significant curb and gutter removal throughout the entire subdivision and a significant amount of patching. So we've got I think we're replacing streetlights too. So there's a lot of work involved in that, so we made sure we got a survey done first so we can get that done properly. We also have a consultant working on the Warrenville Road reconstruction project and putting together those bid documents. And we're not near final yet on that. We're probably, I'd say, about 75% done with those plans and specs and the cost estimates. So we're working toward hopefully a summer project for both those projects. And we've got an item on tonight's agenda later on where we're asking to go out to bid early before the fiscal year 20 budget is approved in April, to be able to go out to bid on those projects ahead of time, and we'd be looking to award those probably in April for construction start in May or June. We also have the final engineering that was completed this year for the Deal Road turn lanes project, and if you recall, that is we're adding a left turn lane from westbound Deal into Target. Right now, there's a right-in, right-out driveway entrance at, basically in front of the Target building onto Deal Road. We're going to add a left turn lane in to help deal with some of the congestion that happens, especially around lunchtime on Davis Parkway. And we're hoping the traffic flow in there will be improved for the residents and the users of those areas, as well as the business owners. The Virginia storm sewer upgrade design, that's something we're working on with a consultant right now. The consultant went through and surveyed the east side drainage, storm sewer, and particularly the stuff that's tributary to, like the storm sewer that crosses Warrenville Road just west of Virginia. And we're focused on that system because there's a couple of spots in there that frequently flood, multiple times a year through fairly moderate storms. That system is severely undersized right now, and we're looking at ways to upgrade that. We had a study done, probably about 14 years ago by James J. Bennis and Associates that had some recommended storm sewer sizes in there, and we've got a consultant working with us now to help verify those storm sewer sizes, and we're now looking at from the low point in Virginia, just north of Warrenville Road, and upgrading that storm sewer to where it crosses Warrenville Road as a starting point. And if we've got $75,000 in the budget for the design and the construction of that, we're right now working on looking at alternate alignments and trying to figure out the most cost-effective way and practical way to get that through, that storm sewer through. So we're working through that. The design is right now, and the construction, we can find a project, an alignment that works within the budget we've got set for next year. We'll get that constructed during the summer. If we can't, we may have to revisit and either ask for a budget amendment or push it off to a future year where we can do it. We also have a couple of sanitary sewer projects, or at least sanitary sewer related projects. You may recall the infiltration and inflow program, and that was one where we're trying to get the stormwater basically out of the sanitary sewer system. There's a significant amount of flow, and there are spikes and peaks in the sanitary sewer flows that go to Naperville from Warrenville system during heavy rainstorms, and we can see it in the billing they give us. They monitor those flows, and we get billed accordingly. So this current year is the first year of that program, and it's going to be something that's going to go on to the future, for forever, as far as I'm concerned. The first segment of this is going to be about a 13-year program, and right now we had one phase going this year. Next year we'll have 2 phases, and then starting year 3, we'll have 3 phases going on for the next 11 years, or 12 years, and then, 10 years. So we'll have the, we're going to make it through that and make improvements, but that's, right now we went through phase 1 of the first basin or first area that the consultant divided up. Next year we're going to go into phase 2 for that basin, but then we're going to go into phase 1 of the next basin. So we'll have 2 concurrent basins working at the same time. And then the Fox Hollow lift station is an old lift station. It's required a lot more maintenance in the recent years, and so we contracted with Engineering Enterprises to upgrade and rehab that lift station with a new lift station. That's currently, we're nearly finished with the design. We've submitted to IEPA for permits, and once we get that permit, then we'll look at going out to bid on that project and constructing in the summer. So as I move on to supporting economic development, we had a series of sanitary sewer, or sanitary sewer related projects, and I want to point out, you're going to see a couple of these projects that end up on multiple slides because they serve different groups of customers. In this case, we had the sewer extension from Landon Avenue to Route 59, and that serves the Southwest District. That's being extended to be able to serve the Southwest District, and if Lexington, Trace, Everton, Thorntons, those developments happen, that sanitary sewer will be there to serve them. We also have a contract for upsizing the sanitary sewer that's immediately downstream of that extension. There's currently an 8-inch diameter sanitary sewer that runs from Landon to the Ferry Creek Interceptor, and it needs to be a 12-inch. So we have a contract with Apollo Trenchless to be able to upsize that from an 8-inch to a 12-inch diameter sanitary sewer. Right now, they're just waiting for the weather to break so it's above freezing consistently so they can do that work, because they have to do some bypass pumping for the existing flows. And the I&I reduction program shows up here again. And then another project was updating the interceptor capacity analysis, and that was originally analysis done by the Cantera developer for Naperville to analyze the impact on their Naperville's interceptor with the additional flows that were going to be generated from Cantera. As we went through and discussed the future build out of Warrenville and developed those numbers to community development last year, Naperville requested that we, or as part of our memorandum of understanding with them, required that we update that interceptor capacity analysis with our new full build-out numbers and our anticipated development going forward. So we're in the process of working on that. We're targeting that to be done by the end of this fiscal year, but I anticipate it's probably going to take it through May or June probably to get it finished. So it'll bleed into next fiscal year just slightly. And finally, we've got the final engineering of the Deal Road turn lanes. The reason I have this supporting economic development too is this is going to help those the businesses that are there right now, Target, Buffalo Wild Wings, McDonald's, all those businesses that are there now, getting residents and customers to them more easily by improving the traffic flow. But we also hope that it's going to help fill some of those vacant spaces that are there too by improving traffic flow and maybe making those spaces a little bit more enticing for people that want to have a business there. So move on to how we support other developments, and I wanted to kind of spice up the ERP a little bit here. It got kind of a bad rap last week with Ron's presentation as being maybe not the most exciting project in the world, and maybe it's not exciting, but it's super important. I mean, it's gonna affect every department in a positive way. It's gonna help us do our jobs more efficiently. Specifically for Public Works, we're working with the consultant to have them design a work order system for us. And right now we have kind of a rudimentary one where we have emails come in to help at least submit the work orders and follow up on them. This is going to be a way that we can actually, residents can go online and submit a work request, and that can turn into a work order. Staff can do that. They can take calls. There's going to be a variety of ways we can initiate work orders for staff and be able to respond to those, track our time on them, and be able to track what we're doing and how we're doing it, how we're spending our time and tracking data. So it'll make it easier for Justin to help track data on those items. But maybe it's not exciting, but it is really important. We are in the process of converting our utility atlas from an AutoCAD-based drawing to GIS. And the GIS will make it more accessible for everybody. Staff has access to GIS across the board, whereas there's only a few of us with AutoCAD licenses that can access it. And right now, Public Works staff is going through and collecting data, collecting points on different manholes, light poles, things like that. The sanitary sewer and water main is basically complete with a couple of minor kind of punch list items. They've got to find some things they couldn't find. The light poles are finished, and I think the signs are all finished. We're looking at probably about 50% of the storm sewer is done, and if it ever stops snowing or we stop getting ice storms, the street division can get out and finish that. So once they finish that, we have a consultant that we're going to work with to help take the AutoCAD information and the points that were collected by Public Works and create a GIS atlas that's going to be useful for everybody. And then the citywide replacement of the water meter transmitter units. There was a 2018 decision package where we are going to start removing the old Aclara units and replacing them with Neptune units. And it's a 5-year program. We're in year 2 this year. Next year will be year 3. There's an item on tonight's agenda later on that where we're going to be looking to accelerate that program to a 3-year program for a reason I'll get into later on. But that's a project that takes up some amount of time by staff too. It's pretty important. Now move on to fiscal year 20. With projects that support residents, again, we get back into road projects, and there's a lot of kind of repeats but different phases of projects here. So next year will be the 2019 road, or this year I should say, there'll be a 2019 road program construction during the summer, as well as the Warrenville Road reconstruction project and the Deal Road turn lanes construction project will all be happening this summer. And then next winter, about this time, we'll be going through and preparing the bid documents for the 2020 road program. The Virginia storm sewer upgrade project, there will be construction during the summer, hopefully. If we said before, if we can find an alignment that works well and is cost effective, and we can fit it under the budget number we have, then we're going to proceed with that this year and get that done, because we'd like to kind of start building the backbone of that system to help improve the flooding situation there on the east side. And then we've got sanitary sewer projects, or again, sanitary sewer related projects. The I&I reduction program next year will be year 2, so we'll be working on 2 different basins. Related to the I&I project is the purchase of a sanitary sewer camera. We have one right now, and it's similar to this, except it doesn't have this front piece on. It's got the wheels, and it can look right, it can drive down the sanitary sewer, and it can see forward, and it can tilt and look to sides. It cannot go up the sewer services, though. So that pipe you see kind of going up and to the right is a sanitary sewer service, and that little black piece is another camera on that camera that can launch down that service and see what's going on in that service. And if we've got I think it's a $155,000 camera. We're looking to replace the camera we have now. If we buy that'll be cheaper than having a firm come in and televise all those for us, because we wouldn't have the capability of looking up the services. And the reason the services are important is there's a lot of miles of services, just like there's a lot of miles of main. We have control of our main. We want to see what's going on there, but there's a lot of I&I that comes in through the services as well. We want to be able to evaluate those and see what type of projects what solutions there are to be able to address the I&I that's coming in through the services too. So I don't have the numbers handy, but we'd be spending a significant amount of money every year over the next 11, 12 years to televise the system and televise those services. Whereas if we do this in-house, we'll first of all televise more of the services than the firm would. A firm would come in and kind of pick some targeted spots to get a sample of what's going on in the services, as opposed to getting every one. We'll go through. We've got a 2-man crew that's dedicated to flushing sewers out right now and also televising sewers. This would be incorporated into their workload. And then we've got the Foxhall lift station rehabilitation construction. Again, that's a project that would happen this summer. That lift station's old and has been a maintenance issue recently for our utility division. We've been out there frequently dealing with it, so it's time to have that upgraded and replaced. Let's look at how we support economic development in this coming year. again, sanitary sewer and water projects, that we're gonna have a water extension. It's not actually gonna go all the way to 59. This would be, if the Everton project moves forward, they would build water main within their development from 59 to the south or east side of the Prairie Path. And then once that's done, we would follow on with our project where we would finish that loop from that Prairie Path to Landon Avenue. And then we'd have a loop for that area of the city, which would help improve water quality. It would help give some redundancy to the system for fighting fires and things like that. And if there's a water main break, we'd still have service too. We could, right now at 59, that water main that heads down 59 to Ferry is a long dead end. And this would shorten that dead end somewhat and would also shorten the dead end on Landon. The I&I reduction program, again, is something that if we can reduce the amount of I&I going into the sanitary sewer, it's going to help residents by having capacity in the sanitary sewer just for sanitary sewer flows. It will also help future developments or future residents, future businesses by having that capacity that they should have in that sanitary sewer and expecting that sanitary sewer to not be taken up by stormwater. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to finish the update of, I believe the update of that interceptor capacity analysis is going to bleed into next year and probably be completed in like May or June. The Deal Road turn lanes construction, again, that'll support existing businesses out in that area of Cantera by Target, as well as hopefully helping to fill some of those vacant spaces. So the ERP party continues this year. There's a go live date on it that is probably in the fall roughly, and that'll happen during this coming fiscal year. It'll be this calendar year that we'll go live on that, which would be great. Once that goes live, it'll help us out. There's been a significant amount of staff time that's been involved in meeting with our project manager, meeting with Mazik, who's the developer of the system for us, and that time will then be freed up after this is implemented to be able to do other things again. We've got the citywide replacement of the water meter transmitter units continues into the next year, and that will be year 3. And again, it's either going to be year 3 of 5 still, or potentially the third and final year of the program, depending on what is decided later on with this item in the agenda. And finally, there's an expensive project at the police department. It's about a $400,000 project to replace and upgrade the HVAC system there. So there's 4 units up on top of the building that are about 20 years old and in need of replacement. If you remember, in the last couple of weeks, there was a heat transfer unit that went bad, and we had to have that replaced. And that's just a symptom of things to come with that old system. Now, it's not just a replacement of those units, though. There's a couple of additional components that are going to help upgrade it, because the existing system does not function all that well. It has a hard time regulating temperatures among the 14 different zones in that building. And there's going to be a boiler component to this that's going to help regulate the temperatures. And maybe one area of the building is a little warmer, one's a little cooler, and intentionally so. Right now, they have a hard time regulating that. There's a lot of unhappy people over in the police department when it comes to the environment over there. There's also that kind of black box on the lower right of the slide is a look at like what a building automation system would look like. And it's essentially a SCADA system for the HVAC. So our facilities maintenance guy there's an interface there at the building to be able to look at, but if he's at his desk and the police chief calls and says, hey, Doug, this is going on over here, Doug can get on his computer, look at it without having to go over there immediately, and start to get an idea of what's going on and maybe how to attack it, or maybe even make an adjustment to the system and how it's operating remotely, as opposed to having to go over there and troubleshoot there. And it's not that he won't have to ever go over there and do it, but this is a way maybe he can be a little more efficient with his time and take care of something quickly. So, but it's an expensive project. It's something that needs to be done. Again, the age of the system, and one of the things Doug felt he was charged with was to help improve the system too, not just to stick with the status quo and have something that's new but operates inefficiently going forward. So I've got another category of studies, I'll call them. These really didn't fit necessarily neatly into one, like serving the residents or serving other departments. They probably would fit more in the category of serving the residents, but I wanted to call special attention to these. The first one is we're going to start a complete streets policy development this fiscal year. So in the next couple of months, we've just signed a contract with an engineering firm to assist us with that. We're going to get roughly 50% of it done the fiscal year, and then the other 50% done in fiscal year 20. And then we've got a pavement condition survey data collection. That's a decision package in the proposed budget. And the driver behind this is the Surface Transportation Program, which is federal funding the city uses on a variety of projects. They're changing some of the criteria they use to evaluate projects and award funding. And one of the criteria is going to be that you have to have a more scientifically based pavement analysis of your roads, so they can, and so it's basically to help, in one sense, to help check that box. It will be useful information. We'll actually have numbers assigned. It's not just going to be, well, this road was resurfaced 15 years ago, it's due, we're going to go ahead and do it. I mean, maybe that road could last a couple more years, and the rating is a little higher than some roads that were resurfaced 12 years ago, for instance. So it will be useful to help us prioritize our roadways and that, and identify improvements to be made. And coincidentally, it also does tie into the NOVAC study from a few years ago, the Public Works Service Levels and Staffing Study. That was one of their recommendations, was to implement a pavement management system like this. And what will end up happening is the firm that we eventually select will have a vehicle, probably a van or a pickup truck that drives with some technology that will automatically record the condition of the road and evaluate it for them. And they'll develop reports for us and ratings on the roadways. And there's a tree inventory and management plan. It's another decision package that was initiated by Alderman Widener with the elected official budget request form. And I expanded this slightly because it's gonna be a good thing to have the data. We're gonna have an arborist go through, geolocate the trees, collect information like size, species, condition, that whatever information we want about it. But then we're gonna have Chuck Stewart's our consultant arborist, and we're gonna have him help us develop a management plan then for us too. Because to have the information is great, but then we'd like to be able to do something proactive with it and figure out how we're gonna maintain our trees. And in the past, Chuck has shared with me that he's advised people that municipalities to, rather than spend a whole bunch of money just continuing to plant new trees, to actually devote a decent amount of money to actually taking care of the trees you have. And maybe pull back on some of the plantings so you can keep the trees you have healthy and growing, that kind of stuff, and so they don't become hazards any sooner than they have to. And finally, I don't want to ignore the solar opportunities that we're looking into for Warrenville too. And management analyst Miller and I have been talking to Symbiont. We're still talking with them consistently. That process is moving. Oh, it's slow. It's slower than I'd like it to, but we're working on coming to an agreement with them we can bring back and present to council. And that would be for them to build a solar array on our Well 9 site, which is at Warrenville Road and Maycliff. And for them to provide electricity to us, they would own and maintain the system. Again, we need to get to a point where we can evaluate, are they going to be able to provide it cheaper than what we pay now? And we're working through that process to have they just got us a draft agreement today that we're going to share with our city attorney and review, and then try to move forward on that. And the other program that Management Analyst Miller is looking at is the Community Solar Program. And they recently performed an analysis of some of our accounts for electricity and provided that to us. We're working through trying to understand that better, how it interacts with the municipal aggregation program, as well as whatever our other provider for some of our city facilities, and see how that interacts. So we've got to work with Christina and with Kevin to help understand that better before we have a recommendation on how we should move forward that, or whether we should move forward on it or not. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, that was very, very interesting. Questions? Alderman Widener?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. It was really informative. I just have a question regarding the, I guess it's regarding the streets. And I know most of the streets are in asphalt, and I just wonder whether or not the city has ever evaluated the cost of concrete for streets and what the pros and cons would be of laying down concrete in certain areas, because it just seems like in a case like Warrenville Road, you might be able to stamp it so that you still get the paver effect, and that there still be some creative opportunities that you may not have with laying asphalt, although asphalt is the most cost-effective. I would guess, and I just was curious about that.
We haven't looked at it specifically. I know concrete is more expensive as a product to use to construct the streets. And in my experience years ago on Glen Ellen, they've got some concrete streets throughout town that they paved intentionally. It takes a lot of active maintenance, more so than asphalt. You get some settlement between panels and that kind of stuff, and there's some grinding that has to be done. There's active maintenance projects that have to be done periodically to make sure that pavement stays a viable pavement, and there's some patching that needs to be done with that too. I haven't really looked at it all that closely. The only concrete street we had in town was Iroquois Court, which we replaced with asphalt. And our experience with asphalt, and full depth asphalt especially, is that it lasts well. And then over the years, when you do have to do maintenance on it, it's just milling off the top 2 to 3 inches and resurfacing it, and it's fairly cost effective.
It's just, interesting that sidewalks are always concrete, or most of the time, and the roads are always asphalt. There's probably a good reason for that, but and I'm just, curious whether or not there's been technological advances in the world of concrete that, may have brought its durability factor, up to be equal or to surpass that, that service ability that you get out of asphalt.
Well, it's kind of funny, because I worked, years ago, I worked in Waukegan, which was a really old community. I worked in Glen Ellyn, which had some age to it as well. And sometimes in doing our sidewalk replacement programs, you come across these old squares of sidewalk that were decades old, that, I mean, way beyond whatever useful life you might assign to them. We've got 40 years for concrete in our CMRP. I actually think the condition of, or the quality of concrete has gotten a little bit less when it comes to sidewalks and that. I think it tends to degrade faster nowadays than it used to. I think that the products, for whatever reason, seem to last longer in the older days. I'm not sure what the difference in the mix is, but it's, I think at least for driveways, sidewalks and curbs and that kind of stuff, some of the older stuff seems to hold up better than the newer stuff.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alderman Goodman?
Can I ask if you've gotten any response from the sort of public service announcement in the hometown happenings about the INI issue and people's sump pumps connected to the stormwater?
I haven't heard of any responses. Nothing's been directed by way. Now Justin hasn't, as far as I know, received anything either. The only time I've ever heard somebody voluntarily tell us is when we were doing that Harvest Court, Lakeview Court project. We were working in the backyards, and one of the residents, we were trying to find a sump pump, said, well, it's connected to my sanitary sewer. I bought the house that way, and we worked with him to get it connected to the storm sewer that we installed. So, no, I haven't received anything. It's not surprising, I guess. I mean,
Well, it was just a few days ago. I think we got it on Friday. so-
okay, yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, well, just something to keep an eye out for. I hope
Mhm.
that people at home who are hearing this and might take a look at that and see if maybe they can reach out and get a free inspection and consider improving the sanitary sewer system that way. Did I hear you correctly in saying that the sanitary sewer camera is $155,000?
Yes.
Whoa.
They're not cheap. We'd be replacing the camera we have. We still use the same truck and everything, but the camera's expensive, especially with that called a lateral launch, that secondary camera you can send up services. But we would be spending tens of thousands of dollars a year to have another firm come in, possibly as much as $100,000, depending on what year it is, in the I&I program, to have somebody else come in and do that work.
Okay, and this is going to be presented as part of the I&I decision package, or that's a separate?
No, it is just proposed in the budget. I think we actually had it, was it in last year's budget too? We didn't buy it last year though, or the current year. It's just proposed in the budget. There's not a decision package on it.
Okay, well, I would appreciate seeing some budget numbers about how much we would save and how
Sure.
much the other services would cost, just to compare, because that's a very non-trivial amount of money to not have as a separate decision package.
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Bevere?
I got two questions for you, and actually, after the meeting, I'd like to ask you a question about a project going on. My first question would be, it wasn't in the report here, but did we have anybody apply for the backyard drainage project?
We had, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And, just want to make sure that's still ongoing.
Yeah, we had one application this year, and it was actually, was it 3 residents or 2? Three were part of the application, so it's one short of what we needed. We established as a minimum of 4. So we went back, Jamie Clark and Christine Hocking went out and walked through the backyards to evaluate, see if there's a way we could expand it potentially and have them, if they just added one neighbor, make it a viable project. And Justin reached back out to them and gave them the feedback about adding, I think it was a neighbor to the north of them, to be able to make it a 4-person application and a viable project. And at this point, we haven't heard back from them again. We do want to follow up with the people who we knew had drainage issues in the past before this program was established. And we notified them last year that this was going to be a possibility they could apply for some help, and not one of them applied. So I was going to have Justin follow back up with them to find out why. Was it the $500 application fee? Was it that they couldn't get 4 people together? What was the reason? To see if we can get some feedback as to why they wouldn't have applied for when we know these are people that had called, whether it be me or Christine or Jamie or Justin, with drainage problems in the past.
Okay, and then my next, when the Everton project's going on, I was seeing they're going to be running water main up Albright from 59, and we only have like another 500 feet to our city limits, and I think should really be looked at it while the crew's out there to extend that 500 feet and put a water main in. It just would be better for fire protection with hydrants, and it's a non-hydrant area, and And I don't know where the sewer stub's gonna come in eventually, but I don't know if it's coming through the Everton project or somewhere else, but I just, it'd be great to maybe check into that.
Sure, we can look at that.
Alderman Ashour?
On the road evaluation, the survey collection, are they gonna break it down to the point where it might recommend partial replacements if we have 2/3 of a street that's in satisfactory condition and a third of it's in fair, just because of base conditions or something like that?
Yeah, I think the results we'll get will have ratings block by block. So if a street's 3 blocks long, there, like you say, one block of it might be in poor condition, that maybe that requires something different, because you reach a certain point on that curve that I included on that slide where it's not worth just resurfacing because you've damaged the base, and there is potentially either partial or full reconstruction required.
I think that'll be valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Phil.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next item on the budget is the Administration Department FY 2020 budget presentation. And we have Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Thank you. Oh, that's on. That's a little close. We're going to move that down a bit because I'm a loud talker. Okay, so administration, for those at home that maybe don't recognize or realize what administration does, we are a support department. That's at least what I call it, to Public Works and, I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Is that better? Okay. Don't want to make everybody's head hurt before this is over. So administration is a support department. Generally, everything that we do falls under the umbrella of either administration, information technology, communications, support of the elected officials and the mayor, support of the public, support of the other city departments. So everything that we're going to talk about this evening falls under those general umbrella categories. I've broken this presentation down into 2 main overviews. The first is operations and core services. In that category, we're really going to be highlighting some of the day-to-day ongoing activities, larger impact activities. And then we have special projects where we'll be talking about some of the short-term projects and initiatives that make a decision package in the budget that have a bigger impact overall. So fiscal year 19 accomplishments under operations and core services. We, after several years of working towards a compensation study, finally wrapped up that project and are implementing the results of that this year for the upcoming fiscal year. The economic development activities that we support in administration include participating in several meetings with the Economic Development Representatives Group, TIF agreement development. Gosh, that's really, I don't know. You know what, we're gonna pause and I'm gonna switch with Phil for a second because that's given a lot of feedback. Okay, is that better? Sounds better for now. So supporting economic development activities, obviously publishing information on behalf of community development, participating in TIF agreement development, participating in different meetings, city administrators on the Economic Development Representatives Group. And then the electric aggregation program was renewed this past year for a 2-year period that gives our residents a fixed rate on their electric supply through ComEd, and also includes the purchase of 100% renewable energy certificates, which is an increase. I believe ComEd is now at, I think it's 15%, around that range. Additional 2019 operations and core services accomplishments. IT was a big thing this year. It was a significant undertaking of projects and repairs and replacements. Some of the highlights that our IT consultants assisted with was upgrading the presentation equipment in the 2 conference rooms here at City Hall. They installed and upgraded Wi-Fi on the exterior of the police department building, which is important because when the police officers pull in to the parking lot, they have a lot of equipment and software in their vehicles that then needs to upload information to the city's network, and there was a lot of issues with that. The connectivity was a challenge. So they upgraded that. And then we replaced about a third of our city desktop computers this year. That is part of a 3-year phase or plan to upgrade all of the computers, all the desktop computers, and move to a 3-year replacement schedule. Nobody wants to be that guy. That guy works in the office next to me. His name is John Coakley. He yells at his computer a lot. But it's frustrating, right? We've all been there. The computer doesn't work, something breaks, and you're sitting there trying to get it to fix, trying to troubleshoot it, calling IT, and you're not being productive, and you're just trying to get something to work that should work. So rather than trying to extend the life of computers beyond their useful standard 3-year life, we are going to move to a 3-year replacement schedule on all the computers. So that was a big undertaking this year. Building security, that's an ongoing project. We added a camera here at City Hall. We upgraded our keypad system software here at City Hall. We supported Public Works in their installing of a keypad system at Public Works, and added some panic buttons throughout the city building, which, again, if someone's here at night during a meeting, is helpful if they need to reach out to 911 quickly and can't get to a phone. So the other item on here is recruiting and hiring, what I will also consider an ongoing project for the city. In the roughly 3 years I've been here, we have had an average of 8 to 10 new hires per year. Recruiting as a whole generally is a time-consuming process, especially because we want to hire the right people, make sure that we're getting the right talent to fill the positions that we have. We have begun to advertise our open positions on a variety of different websites, many of which are structured and focused on attracting a variety and more diverse pool of candidates. We here at the city are not required to collect demographic data, so I can't give you facts and numbers about how much we've increased in terms of diversity, but from observation, I can tell you that we have a more diverse slate of employees today than we did 5 years ago. So we continue to work towards those efforts in diversifying and representing the community and having employees in place that can speak the language of the community. In some cases, we have several employees that can speak Spanish fluently, which is really helpful when people come to the counter. Additional operations and core services, we had supported lots of events and programs again this year, Arbor Day events. We support the 4th of July committee. As part of administration department, we are liaisons to several different groups and committees in administration. We held the annual volunteer appreciation dinner again this year, which was a good success. And then we held a health and wellness fair for our employees that had just over 70% participation, which I think is pretty good because most of the daytime staff that was there that were here that day were at the event. And we got a lot of positive feedback, so we will likely continue that event every year. It was an opportunity for them during open enrollment to come speak to the various carriers, that their benefits consultants and representatives, the different health insurance carriers, and ask questions, get information so that they could change their benefits or update their benefits as needed. Special projects, ERP. You haven't heard about that yet, right? It's brand new. So it stands for Enterprise. No, I'm just kidding. You've all heard about the ERP. Obviously, I did not include fireworks, but I appreciate that Phil was so excited and enthusiastic about it. It is an important project. Sitting through process, design, and discussion meetings, probably not the most exciting thing that you can do in a day, but as Phil pointed out, and I will reaffirm, this is a very important project. It is a time-consuming project, but we are really excited that the end result is going to be something fantastic. It's going to help all of us internally. And the other part of that is that it's also going to have several outward-facing portals that will make service to the residents easier. It'll allow them to apply for permits easier, to send us service tickets with pictures and potentially GIS locates. We're working on an integration with GIS and the ERP so that they can do that. Apply for a job online through a portal rather than sending in a paper application and hoping it got there, because that's been a challenge for some, not having that online application option. So we're really excited about what's going to be the end result of this, and once we get through the implementation, we are hoping it will serve us for years to come. Ride DuPage, this year we began a joint effort with Winfield Township and the City of West Chicago to introduce the Ride DuPage program, which is a transportation program, again, for senior and disabled residents. We have had some hiccups with PACE, and they've had a few implementations with other organizations that have delayed this effort, but we are now in regular communication with them and moving forward. So we anticipate actually starting the program in April. I will have more information hopefully in the coming weeks with an actual contract or an agreement, as I talked about at a committee meeting a couple of months ago. So we are working towards that project. It's still ongoing. The city phone system, yet another really exciting project for no one else but me and maybe Kevin. We are in need of a new phone system. We are starting that project very soon. Our current phone system is about 10 years old. It's no longer manufactured, and therefore there's a lot of support issues when things stop working. So Kevin and I will be really happy when the new phone system is in and works on a regular basis and we don't have to cross our fingers. And then finally, public art on this slide. We supported our Tourism Arts Commission on their first installation of a public art project under the Aesthetic Enhancement Program. We have other public art here in the city, but this was the first under that program at Leon Schmidt Heritage Park. And there's a picture, oh, I went forward. There's the picture of them right there. They all look really happy. I would not suggest going out there tonight because it's a little dark and a little cold. And also I hear ice rain is happening, but in the spring or summer, as the weather gets warmer, go visit Journey and go find all of the bronze acorns if you haven't been out there yet. So looking forward to 2020, fiscal year 2020. Our objectives under operations and core services, again, we're going to continue our branding efforts. We are still hoping to hire a photographer to take some scenic pictures and really capture the essence of what makes Warrenville, Warrenville, that we can use on our website, on Facebook, on our different media, print media applications. We are going to continue to evaluate building security needs. This is going to be an ongoing effort, probably forever. Things change. As things change, we need to reevaluate and update if there's additional needs that we have here. So that will be an ongoing effort. Bargaining with the 3 city unions will begin in this upcoming fiscal year, Public Works and the 2 police unions. All those contracts are expiring in this new fiscal year. And then finally, personnel and safety policies. Again, that's an ongoing review and revision update. We have a safety policy this evening in the memo I mentioned. This is something the safety committee is working towards, to have updated safety policies coming forward over the next year. That'll carry forward into the new fiscal year. And then there's always personnel policies to update, and we anticipate there will be a lot of different laws and changes at the state level that will require at minimum a review and possibly a revision to our current personnel policies. Additional operations and core, electronic file maintenance. What does that mean? So we have a document management center system called Laserfiche that we use here at the city. We are likely going to expand the use of it, and also we need to update and revise how we're using it, because we're going to be tying that to the ERP as well. Again, automating all of those different softwares together so that they work together, so we don't have staff trying to find some information in the ERP and then looking in Laserfiche for other information. All those things need to work together, but that requires us to evaluate how those templates and documents are stored and established. So we'll be working on that in administration. Employee evaluation process, again with the ERP, that will likely become a more electronic process, and it gives us an opportunity at this stage to review those forms, review how we perform our evaluations, make sure that those criteria and competencies that we're evaluating meet the mission of the city, and we're still evaluating people on the things that we care about as an organization. Safety training and initiatives. You may remember we talked about this during our liability insurance renewal. We are part of a HELP program this year through IPRF. This program has some activities and action items that we need to follow in terms of training, in terms of updating policies. to help prevent and reduce any future accidents and just keep everybody safe. So we will be working on that. That will require an additional investment of time this coming year. And finally, recruiting and hiring is on here again because we're going to likely be doing more recruiting and hiring in the next year. There's likely to be people that either retire or decide to leave the city employment. And it is a full employment market, so that presents some challenges, obviously, with competing with not only public sector organizations, but private sector organizations. In addition to that, there is the $15 an hour minimum wage discussion that's happening at the state level that will likely have an impact that we need to evaluate. If that ends up being passed, there's an impact that will happen across the board for employers. So we'll have to review our compensation and make sure that we're still competitive and do all the due diligence that we do as an employer. Special projects for next year, again, ERP. Yay, ERP again. We are going to continue to focus on the ERP. As Phil said, we are anticipating going live in the fall. There will be lots of training, lots of transition time even after the go live because it is a big change to how we operate as a business currently. So that'll be an exciting time. The Ride DuPage pilot program will hopefully be in full swing, and it will likely run the full length of the fiscal year, but that's still a necessity for us to be able to evaluate that and the ACORN program and determine what makes sense, what meets the needs of our residents moving forward. City website redesign. This is an exciting project. I know it's been on the list for a few years. We are now being forced into it. I would have liked to get through the ERP first, but it doesn't matter. The city's current website is on an old platform. They are no longer going to be supporting that platform as of December, so we are going to be updating that. We will likely start that project in mid-March, probably right around the time we end kind of the budget discussions. But that's going to be an undertaking for all city departments. We'll likely have someone from or two members of the council participate in that as well to get feedback. And that new website will allow us to be more mobile friendly, more mobile accessible. A lot of people access information now via a mobile device. Our website, you can do it. It's not as easy to use as it probably should be by this point. The next two items, staffing and services study and facility space needs, I'm kind of going to cover together because they're two separate projects, but almost two phases of a bigger project. As we continue to grow as a community, as an organization, we have to occasionally evaluate the services that we're providing, the staffing levels that we have to give those services, and then the future needs. So hiring an outside consultant to come in and help us do that will give us the data and the analysis that we need to then make those decisions moving forward when services and staffing questions come up. Along with that, once we know the services and staffing the services that we want to provide and the staffing levels needed to provide those services, then we have to evaluate, do we have the building capacity currently to fit all of those needs now and for the future. So in some cases, I think we have a lot of space, but just needs to be reshuffled to utilize more of it. In some cases, that may require expansion. We won't know until we get through that. The facility and space needs study will happen as phase 2, assuming this all gets approved in the budget, will happen after the services and staffing study is completed and we get the results of that study first. And then finally, electronic agenda options. This is another item that has come up in the past with different budget discussions. With the update of the website, this is really the best time to evaluate it. Our website right now does allow us to produce an electronic version of an agenda and a packet. Again, it's not very mobile friendly and it's not very user friendly. But with the upgrade to the new platform of the website, there will likely be new features and functions that we already have access to as part of that. Civic Plus, who's the website company, also has an additional module that you can buy up that is specific to electronic agendas. So that's something that we can evaluate when we're going through that project and figure out what makes sense, as well as looking at what other software options are out there. DUGIS, the police department will talk more about this, but this is that county-wide records maintenance system that DuPage County is working on. They were initially slated to go live this year, but that's been pushed back, I believe, until June of next year. So it will be in the new fiscal year, and we will support the police department from the IT side with anything they need there. Similar to the facilities and staffing needs, technology needs. It's a growing demand, it's going to keep growing, it changes rapidly. And so this is an area where I've spoken with our IT people about having a technology needs assessment to determine what do we actually need versus all of the list of wants that we get on a regular basis. So the ERP will likely eliminate the need for some of the additional software items that some people have asked for over time, but it will also likely increase the request for tablets and mobile phones, because when people are out in the field, that ability to operate from the field when they're not sitting in front of a computer on a regular basis makes it more functional and easier access for them. So we need to evaluate those needs and make good decisions, and I think having an assessment helps us do that. Again, covering the needs versus the wants. The audiovisual equipment, some of the items in this room are at or near end of life, so that is another technology need that is coming in the next fiscal year. Luckily, these cameras do not cost $155,000 each, so we are saving lots of money, so we're not buying those sewer ones. It'll be a significantly less expensive cost. But we do need to upgrade the projector, the cameras, and a few other pieces of equipment in the actual room. So that is a decision package in the budget that you guys will be getting in the next couple of weeks. The last three items on this list are all in support of community development. The Citgo acquisition was on the current year's list of projects. It hasn't been moving, so it's on for next year as well, but we'll see what happens. The 2020 census, obviously we're getting very close to the year 2020, so that is occurring. Community development is the lead department, but we will be supporting them in their efforts there. And then finally, the Two Brothers TIF redevelopment agreement. And with that, I feel like I spoke really fast, but I covered it all. So any questions I can answer? I know a lot of these things that we have decision packages for, you haven't actually seen all of the details, but obviously I can answer whatever questions you have today, and then we'll have plenty of other opportunities after today to talk more.
Thank you. Questions? Alderman Hoffman?
Yeah, I was just wondering, as far as on the computer replacement, it was 3 years you're going to bring it to? Is that 3 years, 3 calendar years, or is that 3 operating years?
Fiscal years.
Thank you.
Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the Ride DuPage program rollout and what we should expect when it does start in April?
Absolutely. We are right now in talks with PACE, who is the organization that administers the program. We are waiting on an agreement from them, which we can then bring forward. So we have one more step with the council, because we brought it to committee, needs to come to council for final approval. We'll have another attorney review, obviously, to make sure everything is in line. From that point, we have communication materials pretty much ready to go. That includes letters that will be mailed specifically to each of the current Acorn Van registered users. We have social media postings that are ready, the website, all of that. There'll be communication put out to inform people about the program. There'll be a slide on Channel 10. We have registration forms from Ride DuPage. We will be able to register all of our current members ourselves that we have on the Acorn Van program, so they don't have to fill out a new form. We have their information, so we will register them in advance of the the rollout of April. And then any new users or any new van or Ride DuPage participants, they'll have to come into City Hall like they do now and fill out a form. And then from there, we register them through a portal with PACE, and it takes, they ask for a couple of days just to get everything updated into their system before the person starts scheduling rides, and then that's pretty much it. Then we get monthly reports and invoices based on the number of riders that we had and the distance that they traveled, the number of miles within the county.
Okay, my second question has to do with, I noticed there wasn't really anything in here about communication to residents. And I know that, for instance, your department does do the city Facebook page, and I know that we have a new community event sign that we've just built, and which hopefully we're going to turn on and start announcing community events soon. Can you talk about those roles?
Absolutely. You're correct. Our department takes the lead on the communications items. We do have some data information that we've been collecting. We've steadily increased the number of likes and reaches and reactions on our Facebook page every year. It's been a slow growth, which is to be anticipated given the level of communication that we're actively doing on the social media pages. The electronic signboard will also fall under administration. We have, I believe it's getting turned on in the next couple of weeks. We have a training fill scheduled in 2 weeks, and then it'll be turned on shortly after that. There will be, at minimum, 3 staff members who will be trained and actively using the city sign. We're working on a policy to update that, and we will continue to update Facebook, the city website. We have multiple users in different departments that help support those efforts, because obviously to try to do it all through administration would be a challenge, given that we don't have the resources to do that. But we anticipate continuing our communication efforts. That's an ongoing kind of day-to-day activity.
Okay, because I know if there is one thing that I hear from residents every time I talk about what's going on with the city, it's that they would like to hear more from us in more different ways, and just have us be more accessible and transparent, and the information available to them in the ways that they like to consume it, which is with as little effort for them as possible. And I understand that of course, means a lot more work for the staff. But it's just something we know we need to keep working on.
And I'm hoping with the upgrade and the update of the city website that there will be more opportunities to put out informational alerts. It'll be that the new platform is a little bit more user-friendly than the current platform on the administration side, the back end, which most people don't see of managing the website. If you don't really know what you're doing with the current website, it's not always easy to find things. The new website platform allows more drag and drop features. It's a lot easier to put information together, so I think that will encourage more activity from our staff internally. Obviously, we don't have a marketing and communications person, so we're relying on individuals from each department to use the skills and the abilities that they have and that they're comfortable with to create those information pieces. And so hopefully with the revised website, with it being a little bit easier to do that, they'll feel a little bit more comfortable with creating more regular content, and it won't be as time consuming for them to navigate the back end of the website.
I hope you're correct, but I would like to take issue just a little bit with one of the things that you said about how if you don't know what you're doing, it's a little bit hard to find things. If you know a lot about the city, and if you work with it every week and come here for a meeting every Monday night, as I do, it's still sometimes very hard to find things. When I was looking through, this week I read my whole packet electronically from home, and just looking through the items for tonight's agenda, for instance, the document that was available for the next item on our agenda was entitled DuPage Water Commission, instead of anything about carpet replacement.
Okay.
So how you would find a document with that title when you're looking for that item, I don't know.
Yes, and I can't disagree with you. We have, so the city website currently has a lot of information. The information is there. The ability to find it sometimes is not as easy as it should be, and we are going to work towards that with the new website. Just to go back to what I had said before that, I was referring more to the back end of the website, not the public view. So I agree with you that there are some challenges even on the public view of the website, but the back end view requires a level of technical know-how with creating web content that if you're not comfortable can be challenging for our staff is where I was going. But yes, you're correct. It's not as easy to find things as we would like. When we've talked about this in our staff meetings with the department heads, my goal with the update and the revision of the website is to scale it back. And that doesn't mean we won't have information available. That doesn't mean that residents won't be able to find things and that we're not going to be transparent in our activities. But I think laying it out in a way that it's easier to find, making the search function a little bit more prominent, titling and naming things something that a resident might recognize versus what the staff person may think is recognizable. And some of that is just talking it through and thinking through from a different perspective, which once you've been doing something for a long period of time, it can be difficult to pull yourself out of your perspective and think about it from someone who isn't doing those activities on a regular basis. But we are going to work through that and get some feedback so that we can make it a little bit more user-friendly and easier to find things for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Alderman Widener?
I just wanted to say, what we lack in the electronics and the website field, I think we make up for in personal service. Warrenville is one of the few places where you can call and you don't get a million prompts and put on hold for several minutes and things like that. And you can actually talk to the guy who's in charge of the project. And I think a lot of residents should appreciate that. So that's, I think, a great feature of our town. Thanks.
And we do direct people, even on social media, when we get questions, when it starts getting to a point where it's way too much information to try to respond to on social media, we often direct people to call the department directly because there is somebody there who will answer and help answer those questions. So thank you, that's a good point.
Alderman Hoffman?
You know, as far as the website, if you're looking for somebody that could use as a test dummy as far as computer illiterate, I would qualify for that.
Okay, you've got to volunteer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Christina.
Thank you.
All right, on to number 3. Let's see here. Proposal for carpet installation at City Hall. This will be Justin Muller.
Good evening, Council. Staff is proposing the installation of new carpet in the City Council chambers, including the gallery conference room. The total square footage of the area is 3,500 square feet, and the repair of wood support structure under the dais area at a cost of $42,282.04. The fiscal 2019 budget includes $75,000 for carpet replacement in city buildings, the current fiscal budget. And the proposal is quoted through the City of Naperville Cooperative Job Order Contract, JOC. The Gordian Group administers the JOC program, and FH Passion is the winning contractor assigned to that contract. And I also want to clarify, before I get too much into this, that in the bid itself, there's references to the Finance Department. Please ignore those. The quote that is included with tonight's backup is specifically for everything, all the work in the City Council chambers. The carpet currently installed in the building is original. It's from 2001. According to the city's capital maintenance replacement plan, the CMRP, it was scheduled to be replaced after 15 years, which was in 2016. The current carpet is generally in good shape. There are sections that have become matted and worn. Also, the current carpet is no longer manufactured, and the city has a very limited supply for any necessary repairs. Staff performed additional research and found that the total cost of carpet installation in the Chicagoland area can generally range between $10 to $15 per square foot. That's an all-in cost. Commercial grade carpet, also please keep in mind, commercial grade carpet will be installed, which is typically more expensive than that is installed in a residential setting. The contractor must also follow the Prevailing Wage Act, which also contributes to an increased labor cost above what might be expected in carpet replacement in-house. Other communities have utilized the services of FH Passion through the Naperville Cooperative Contract, including the City of Elgin, the City of Aurora, and the Village of Lisle. Staff contacted each of these communities and found that each of them has been satisfied with the work completed by FH Passion. The job order contract, the JOC, as I referenced earlier, was established in 2011 by the City of Naperville in conjunction with the Gordian Group through a competitive bidding process. FH Passion was the winning bidder of that bid contract. The program was established with the intention of decreasing project duration and cost while increasing quality. The scope of the work for the JOC, the job order contract, is defined by individual tasks in the construction task catalog, CTC. I apologize for all the acronyms. The CTC is a compilation of pre-priced work tasks for the installation and demolition of various construction-related work tasks. Those can include anything from hanging drywall to painting to actual road projects in this bid. There's no additional cost to the city to utilize the JOC, the job order contract. All costs are built into each of the unit prices. The JOC requires FH Passion to utilize local businesses either in DuPage or Will counties. That is a requirement in the contract. Again, the contract saves the city resources by eliminating the time and expense for completing the normal design, bid, construct cycle for a project. JOC is meant to supplement the city's other procurement methods. And again, the city has utilized FH Passion in this JOC contract before. The customer service counter located in the administration office was completed under this same contract. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions? Alderman Goodman?
You noted the mistake about the Finance Department. Is the other information in this proposal sort of equally messy? They say that the proposal excludes a new wood base, but then you talk about them putting in repairs of the wood support structure. They list a 1/4 inch sub-base behind the council members' seating area, but I'm not sure if that describes this or not. They just say the council chambers, but I thought the gallery room was also supposed to be included.
Right, it is.
Okay, so they're including that in the over 1,000 square foot, but they don't exactly give us square footage.
The total square footage of everything, the council chambers, the dais area, the hallway here, and the conference room is 3,500, about approximately 3,500 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was, when they just say over 1,000, I mean, it's hard for me to tell if they are including the things that you say that they're including, or just the things that they say they're including, which weren't the same, as you already noted.
Correct. That was the initial, we had to sign into a system to put this project into the system, and having not looked at the building drawings at that time, that was just kind of a general estimate of what the building, our facilities maintenance supervisor thought each area was. So originally, this had included the finance department, and that was taken out and now it's just going to be the city council chambers for the new carpet.
And the gallery room?
Correct, yes. When I should clarify, when I say city council chambers, yes, I mean everything. Yes, the gallery room included, correct.
Okay, and even though they don't list that in here, the number that they include in their proposal scope of work is still the same? The 42,000?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and that doesn't include the wood base repairs that they're doing?
It does include the repairs to the dais, yes,
Okay, even though the scope of work says that it doesn't?
correct.
Okay,
Yes, I apologize again for the confusion.
all right, I
Yes,
just
yep,
wanted to make sure
yep.
all of that was clear because it was a little confusing. Thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Ashour?
Not the, while the carpet is generally in good shape, okay, it has become matted and torn in certain spots. Is that, I don't look out here and see matted and torn in certain spots. Am I missing something? Is there certain areas that are bad? And if it is, it's like the road program. If part of the road's bad and most of it's good, leave the good part. If the conference room's a mess and we have to put different carpet in there and it doesn't match at the doorway, it isn't the end of the world. If we can get another 5 years out of another area, I was just kind of surprised at this. I mean, some of the stuff I understand. And also, if we have areas that do have good carpet in them, they certainly could be used for repairs if there's small areas in big areas. And just asking the question, it doesn't make sense to me.
So what I do know, there have been areas up on the dais repaired that have, there's actually, I think from what I know, there's 2 sections up there with staples. Those are 2 areas that have been repaired, and then there's also there's a pretty good section here in the conference room that's been repaired that again is actually starting to fray from that repair. So those are the areas that I'm aware of that have been repaired.
So we're gonna repair everything because these are bad. I mean, we're gonna put all new carpet in here, which seems to be okay, because this area up here needs some repairs. Am I understanding this right?
Yes, the proposal for you tonight is for, again, the entire city council chambers, including the gallery conference room, yes, to get everything.
Seems like we should narrow the scope, but that's just my opinion. I mean, it's $42,000. If we can get another 4 years out of most of it, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't look awful. It isn't in horrible repair. If this area up here needs to be repaired and the conference room needs to be repaired, but this doesn't, why are we doing it all? Or why don't we identify the areas, see if we can break them out? That's just my thought.
And Hoffman?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Alderman Ashour there as far as, I look around, the carpet doesn't look bad at all. If the conference rooms needs to be recarpeted, maybe we should think about tiling it, something that lasts a little bit longer. If we go another 4 or 5 years, why not? Thank you.
Alderman Davalos?
Thank you. My only comment to that, and I don't know the answer, would be Is there a cost benefit over time of doing it all at once? Things obviously will get more expensive. Number two, will it match? Are we going to have a piecemeal puzzle sort of a situation where over time the carpets won't match, or is this some color that goes on forever? So that would, I mean, if we can save any money over time by doing it all at once, we've sort of done that when we look at the CMRP. We don't replace things that, we don't wait till they're completely unusable. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Correct. We are, again, this would just be the city council chambers. We have included in next year's fiscal year budget a request to do some painting in here once we decide on that style of carpet square. It is, yeah, so that that would be, again, something we would have to think about, the other areas of City Hall.
My question is, so this is not carpet squares that's out here right
No,
now? This is
correct.
just
This is not
laid
carpet squares. Correct.
One big
It's
sheet
rolled
of carpet. So doing carpet squares for the future, if an area is damaged, then it's easily replaced. Is that correct? Will you be
Correct.
able to replace those squares?
Yes, easier to,
So when you buy enough carpet squares to do all these areas, do you buy a certain amount of extra, and how much do you buy?
yes.
Extra? I mean, is that included in this pricing?
That I don't know. It's not, but there would be, obviously, we would buy those extra boxes in case we have any need for repairs of those carpet squares.
Yeah, I think we need to find out if the company recommends, depending on how much square footage you lay down, how much you should buy extra for replacement, in the future. If you're going to keep this for 15 years, do you buy 2 extra boxes, or do you buy 5 extra boxes? That type of thing. We should probably find that out. But my question was too, also, that if the area here is in relatively good condition, but the gallery needs to be replaced, or the dais needs to be replaced, maybe we should be only doing that section only. I think that's something we really do need to discuss. And I think maybe we need to find out, how soon this needs to be done. Do we need to have the aldermen, since they've looked at this, do they need to have an inspection of the carpet? Do you need to take maybe some of us around and show us where these issues are? Because we're not always sitting out and where the audience sits. I don't know where the carpet is frayed there. The issues on the dais and in the hallway, on the ramp, what are the issues? What can you show us? Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, I think I would make a motion to investigate further and put this item off. I think that the points that have been raised are good ones. I think that the staff should consider separating the 2 areas that need more work and don't need as much work for pricing, and consider that going forward. So my motion would be to postpone this item. Pending more information, yes.
I'd second that.
Before we take a vote, Administrator Coakley?
I wanted to let the questions and presentation play out before I commented. One of the things that started this whole process was, it's probably 1.5 years ago, I noticed that some of the boards, especially on the ramp coming into the council chamber, are a little bouncy, a little loose, and I wasn't sure why. Talked to our building supervisor about it. He wanted to tear up the carpet and fix those boards. There's different ways to go about that, but once you start tearing up the carpet, you're never going to get it down the right way. Now, that's what started looking at the carpet. We do have a replacement schedule, which, we do this with everything in the city. If the street's not ready to be repaved, we don't repave it yet. We stretch it out a few more years. We don't replace vehicles unless they're, not just because they come up for a schedule. We don't have to replace the carpet just because it's on a schedule, and apparently we missed it by a couple of years already. So that's good news. We got about 3 or 4 more years out of it than we thought we would. I think the council chamber in the main area out there looks pretty good. If you brought in a new piece of it, it probably would look pretty worn, like it had been walked on for 18 years, but it has. But it doesn't look so bad. Some of the work areas look a little more worn, but we're not looking to replace those right now. We are trying to do a couple of things. One is some of those boards I think should get replaced sooner than later up here, so we don't have a problem. The ramp access, which is really the ADA accessibility to get up to this area. You don't want to wait until the boards have broken through and then we have to delay a meeting or have a problem with that. It's not an imminent emergency, but those should be looked at and done. Now that means we could do this whole area back here, replace the boards that have to be replaced, tear up the whole carpet, replace the whole carpet, and it doesn't really, just as you were saying, Alderman Ashour, it might meet there at the stairs, but it's not going to really show that. It's not like we have piecemeal patchwork all over the whole council chamber. That would look terrible. This wouldn't look so bad. The gallery, there's a whole area on the, I don't know which direction is which in this building, against the back wall over here by the phone, or close to where the phone is in the room, where the carpet is just fraying and tearing up. You can catch a chair. Somebody could catch their shoe in it. That's the worst section of it. Instead of getting into a process where we're putting it looks like kind of a super glue or something in it. We used to do that at the old building all the time when we were getting ready to move out with duct tape and patching it. That's an extreme example. Instead of doing those kind of things and piecemealing it, it's probably a good idea to change that carpet out. It gets a lot of use. That room is used even more than this room is with all the meetings of the associations or our boards, commissions, the ERP, which is in there a lot all the time. So that room is probably one of the heaviest used in our building. I think I mentioned the other is just trying to manage our replacement schedule. I've talked to Phil about this several times, and he reminds me all of the features and components of the building will have to be replaced at some point. I don't know if there's an economy of scale doing the whole building at once. We can find that out, but the work areas are much more challenging than these 2 rooms. These rooms have mobile furniture. You can move most of it out of the way, do the big wide areas, get those all down. The work areas, we've got to move employees around for a week or so while they're putting down the carpet. They've got to disassemble all the furniture. It can be done, it will be done. It's just another thing we do in our work life. It's not that. It just takes a lot more coordination. So some of our thinking, just so you have some of the background, was that we try to get some of the areas done, not try to do the entire building at once, because then you have follow-on painting and all those things. So some of it is about efficiency of scheduling. That doesn't mean it has to be done today or this year. You're correct. And ultimately, of course, everything here is a council decision on how we do that. So you have a motion. We'll bring back some more information to the next meeting as soon as we have that information available. We can present that and then talk about other options. But I wanted you to have a little bit more of the thought process. We didn't just wake up one day and decide, gee, the carpet, we want to replace it because it looks a little tattered. There was a nexus of the starting of it, and it was about the wood structure supporting the riser for the dais where we sit on. I want to make sure that that is sound, and I believe Doug has done some repairs. Our building maintenance facility supervisor has done some minor repairs to some of the boards in the past, but we want to make sure all of it is in good shape.
Thank you. Any other questions? Alderman Ashour?
So the intent is to reevaluate, focus on the areas that are most in need of repair, see how we can do them in a way that is reasonable and ties together and looks correct. Am I summing it up right, or? I don't, if we're given direction, I just want to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page, or think the same thing, or we're going to get a list of what we should go look at, or something. I understand what you've talked about here, the need up here, the conference room, the things you're talking about. It just seems like it just kind of exploded into a much bigger project, and maybe if the finance department needs to be done, if it's in bad shape, that should be done in lieu of doing this. I'm not saying that everything shouldn't, that need shouldn't be taken care of. I just don't see any point in doing what doesn't seem to be a need.
Administrator?
We will, I think we got pretty clear direction. You have a motion, I assume will be approved to delay this action Staff will then go back and look at the different areas of not the community, the building, where the carpet is in worse shape, and we'll prioritize that and bring that back with the costs for your consideration. And I'm getting head nods that yes, we can accomplish what I just said. I think that meets what you just clarified and what the discussion was.
So do we have, you have the motion? Okay. Yes, Director Dullstein?
I was just going to add my 2 cents on the finance room. We did discuss having that done originally, and I asked that they actually remove that. There are some areas in finance that do need to be done. However, right now, with everything we're doing with the ERP and all the time involved, we can't stand another disruption. So we're more than willing to put up with what's down there. And don't get me wrong, it's not horrible, but there are areas that are obviously worn and starting to fray. And we'll put off anything we need to do down there until we're done with the ERP, and then we can actually handle some sort of a disruption that would actually lead to. So I asked that it be put off at this point.
That sounds like a very good idea, since the ERP is all-consuming. Okay, well, we have a motion. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, number 4, consideration of proposal, Warrenville Road traffic calming measures. The Deputy Public Works Director, Phil Kukler.
Thank you. When City Council directed staff to proceed with the design of the Warrenville Road reconstruction project, we committed to evaluating traffic calming measures as part of that. With having a smoother asphalt surface out there as opposed to the bricks now, the concern was that traffic might speed up with a smoother surface. So staff worked with our consultant to develop traffic calming measures at Mignon, the intersection of Mignon, east and west legs of that intersection, putting in center islands or median islands that would be planted with probably taller ornamental grasses or some sort of shrubs, as well as stop signs at that intersection to help control traffic and slow it down through that section. There's a long gap from Curtis to Butterfield Road with nothing. I mean, it's straight wide open roadway, and there tends to be more reports of speeding in that area from what I've understood. And we've also heard during that discussion that there's issues with people blowing the stop signs at Curtis. And I believe recently there was an accident where somebody got T-boned or got hit in the rear that was crossing Warrenville Road on Curtis, and somebody just didn't stop at the stop sign and just barreled into him. So we're also investigating possibly like LED stop signs that might be not flashing all the time, but triggered with detector loops, not only at Curtis, but also at Warren. And then if we get direction to go forward at Mignon, also to have those same stop signs there so it's consistent along the corridor and you're not seeing different treatments along the way. I was looking at my notes. I've got a conceptual plan included in the backup with the backup materials for the agenda. It is a conceptual plan. I didn't have the engineer spend a lot of time on that yet. Jamie Clark and I were talking about lengthening those islands if we go forward with this to make them a little bit longer and have some to have them have some more mass to them rather than being just a small island, maybe have some less striping associated with it, but more of an island. If you direct us to go forward with this, then we would refine that concept and develop it a little bit more. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on this issue at this time.
Alderman Ashower?
I appreciate the effort to do something to change it. I don't like the medians. I don't see where having a stop sign and the median will give any benefit. The medians without the stop sign are just a hazard, and the medians with the stop sign are kind of unnecessary. I mean, if you have to stop there anyway. It is, by virtue of the stop sign, a traffic calming measure. I think they're a waste of money. The median closer to Bullwigs has been the source, because of poor driving habits, of some serious accidents, a rollover. I'd hate to see that kind of thing here when we're just trying to get people to slow down and stop. The flashing lights, I think, are essential. I mean, we have a road now that by virtue of its construction slows people down, and they still blow through Curtis and Warren like there's no stop sign. They just plain don't even see them. And they, even if they're only doing 20 miles an hour, you hit somebody at 20 miles an hour, it's a lot of damage, it's dangerous. I support the installation of a sign. I support the flashing lights. I think they should be on all the time. I was discussing with Alderman Widener earlier before the meeting. I think it's on Oak Street going north from 31 in North Aurora. They have 2 sets of flashing stoplights, and they also have some pedestrian flashing yellows that have a smaller stop sign with some copy that says, "You must stop if there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk." And anything like that will be a help. I mean, the whole point is to get people to be aware that there's other people than just them in their car. If those type of features could be installed along with the stop signs, like at Rockwell, places that have access to either the ball field, to the park down by the Prairie Path at Glen, and I guess those 2 locations would be the primary ones, but if those had crosswalks that were somehow illuminated and encouraged drivers to stop if someone was in the roadway, and also an additional stop sign, and to put flashers on all of them, even if they're solar would probably be recommended. That's that's what I see on the ones out in Oak Street, and they're focused in such a way that the oncoming traffic sees the flash, but it doesn't seem to illuminate the area around the sign. I don't know, they have little tubes or something that the lights are in that kind of directs where the flash goes. But there was just an accident last week that somebody was going through the stop at Curtis, and somebody blew the stop sign on Warrenville Road, and she had a couple kids in the car, certainly didn't intend to do it, just didn't see the stop sign, and that there's just too many kids in that road. That's my viewpoint. I don't like the medians. I do like the stop sign, and I think there's some other traffic calming that we can do that would make the drivers pay a little more attention.
One thing, without the medians, I'm not sure whether we'd have warrants for a stop sign or not. One of the challenges is Warrenville Road has a lot more traffic than Rockwell or Mignon in terms of traffic. So as far as, excuse me, meeting the warrants, I would have to verify with our engineer that we could even get a stop sign in without having it. Part of the thought with the medians, one, it slows people down, but then also if you have some sort of vertical, like, ornamental grasses or that, it's a little bit harder to see, so it would actually trigger the need for a stop sign.
So would it be easier to put a stop sign, a 3-way at Rockwell and Warrenville?
I don't think so. I think logically, just looking at it with a T intersection, you're looking at Rockwell is the one that should have this. Rockwell has a stop sign and Warrenville wouldn't. I don't think the traffic volumes are warranted.
So we don't have the right to put a stop sign if we want?
I would have to verify. My gut reaction is no, I don't think we do.
And how do the medians make it stop sign worthy?
Well, part of putting in medians is to have, again, talking about ornamental grasses like what you might see on Butterfield Road that grow up a little bit. If you're on Mignon, for instance, trying to see cars, get out into traffic and see cars, those ornamental grasses make it harder to see those cars. So I think it would help to justify it. It's not totally the reason why we did it, but as I was starting to think about a stop sign and how we would justify it, that was one of the reasons I came up with in talking with our engineer.
Any justification works for me.
Alderman Widener?
Yeah, I can appreciate, the flashing lights that we have at some crosswalks in town and how effective they are, but one of the challenges I think we're facing with this roadway is we're trying to replace an aesthetic and a look and appeal that comes through our town. At the same time, we're trying to calm and keep traffic calm. So I think sometimes there's engineering efforts like the islands that can do the same things as adding stop signs and flashing lights and so forth. And I would just, I guess, encourage staff to continue along the way of trying to, present us a road that's kind of also going to offer the same state of appeal of the ones that we're replacing. Because I hear a lot of people asking about, even though the bricks are shifting and falling to pieces and it's a higher maintenance cost for the city, they like it. They like the look of it, and they like they don't care if it's a little bumpy or anything like that. And I can appreciate that because, when you go to other towns and you drive along a cobbled road or something like that, it's got a certain character and it gives you a certain feel. I don't know whether it's quaintness or how to describe it or anything like that, but it does offer the residents, kind of some atmosphere or a theme in their town that I think we're also trying to establish, besides just, additional, stopping points and lit up signs. So it's I don't know what the answer is, but I think there's got to be a kind of a well-balanced mix.
Yeah, I think one of the other items we're looking at is kind of stamped asphalt treatments for crosswalks that might draw more attention to the crosswalk itself when you're driving along. I don't know the pattern yet or the color, but there's a stamping the asphalt you could do where they heat the asphalt up, stamp a pattern into it, and then have that colored as well. And it's a little bit higher maintenance, but for something like this where we're trying to draw attention to it, that's something we're willing to take on. But that's something the engineer's looking at. I don't have any specific drawings or any materials out on that, but that's as in their preliminary cost estimate, that's one of the items they identified, and I think we discussed with them previously. So,
Mayor?
When we're talking about an LED illuminated stop sign, is that a stop sign that has the little red perimeter LED lights?
yes.
If you come down Herrick Road into the university there, they have that as you enter the university. You can see it for a long ways. Those things are really obnoxious. I'm suspicious that the people who have to put up with that every day and every night and have to look at it in their neighborhood might not be so happy with the aesthetics of that, because it does, at nighttime, you really see it from a long distance off. And I'm not sure that it's any more efficacious than a regular stop sign. Once you get used to things, no matter what they are, you tend to either see them or not see them. So I would just suggest that we think carefully about anything that's going to be illuminated all the time, especially a bright red that you can see from a distance might not be such a good idea. I tend to agree with Alderman Widener about the aesthetics of it. We're trying to maintain a certain charm also, and the islands do change things in a way that I think that is somewhat charming, and add to the care that people have to use in passing through the intersection. And maybe the fact that people don't stop is more of an enforcement issue than a design issue. That might be a consideration also, that changing the design isn't necessarily going to change whether people stop or not. Just my thoughts.
And
Alderman Goodman?
sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the we've been looking at having essentially traffic loops cut into the road, similar to a traffic signal, where that would trigger the stop sign illuminating. So from a certain distance as you're approaching it, you cross that and it triggers it and it turns on. So to me, that would catch your eye as you're approaching if it's kind of dark, and then that sign lights up for you. And I don't know the timing of how long that stays on after the loop triggers it. But that, rather than having it flashing all the time, where maybe it does blend into the background, or maybe it's a consistent annoyance to somebody that lives in the area, if it just comes on as cars come by, that might be a compromise.
Alderman Goodman?
So I looked into what sort of traffic calming measures exist, just for my own personal research, and came up with quite a long list of things. And I'm sure some of these aren't going to be appropriate to our situation, and others you may have considered and discarded, but just to list off a handful of them. Narrowing the streets, so I think that is a bit what you're doing here, at least in this one spot, but to make it more consistent, to either narrow it at other points, especially if people are currently not obeying stop signs at Curtis and at Warren, then having narrower roads there. And sometimes this can just be done with pavement striping. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a design feature. but also adding a bike lane, widening sidewalks, adding planters, bollards, speed tables where you have a raised crosswalk, that it's not a speed bump, it's where the crosswalk is level with the sidewalk, so that people really realize that they have to stop for pedestrians, and it does slow them down somewhat, but you have clear markings to alert approaching drivers that there's going to be a sidewalk height for the entire width of the road, so it can't be gone around, and it's certainly more wheelchair accessible also for pedestrians, which can be a plus. Having symbols on the street, changing the surface of the road texture, which I think you talked about in terms of the stamped asphalt crosswalks. And also just the idea of having visual narrowing. So maybe the grasses that you're talking about, but maybe also in other ways along both sides of the street. Sometimes this can be achieved with landscaping, decorative posts, bollards, and that sort of thing. So looking through this long list, it seems like, while we're redoing the road, you mentioned, okay, maybe stamped asphalt isn't the most cost-effective. But I think what I want you to hear from us, and what I'm hearing from my fellow aldermen and from the mayor, is that being the most cost-effective with this road is maybe not the goal. That providing character and pedestrian safety and traffic calming and slowing traffic is also a very key goal here. Now, we're not going to blow a huge budget on this, but we can spend a little more if it seems worthwhile.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yeah, I think that as far as a crosswalk texturing is a good idea. As far as the islands go, we're gonna have to widen the streets, correct, where the islands go? So I mean, it's a lot bigger project than I think most people realize, because you'd have to bring the base down to match what's originally there. A lot of things would go into it. As far as the flashing lights, and I agree with the mayor, it's a residential area. Who wants to look out their front window and see that going on? You can't catch every jaywalker. You're not gonna catch every speeder, but certainly I think we should probably look into a little bit heavier enforcement there, and then also on crosswalks, have like a rumble strip type texture or something a little bit more pronounced, so when people drive, whether it's at a stop sign or not, so as they're driving down even areas that don't have stop signs, it catches their attention, possibly look at their speedometer and kind of get their attention and just slow them down a little bit. Monitor it with those cameras that we have with the speedometer once in a while, just to see what the average speed is and how many people are actually, because I imagine people going through there are going to start, they get used to driving through there, so they start driving a little bit faster, and then just start enforcing it heavier again. Thank you.
Alderman Widener?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion to recommend City Council direct staff to incorporate islands into the Warrenville Road reconstruction project on the east and west legs of the Mignon Drive intersection.
Second.
We have a motion and a second? Before we have a vote, Alderman Ashour, you had another comment?
Actually, just that maybe the reflectivity of the signs, to the mayor's point, maybe during the day, red lights could be on, or solar lights at night. If you come up Curtis from the south at night, the reflective panels on the signs down there look like daylight. And I don't think that same reflective material is used on the stop signs. And I think that if it was, or if we were able to do that, it would change the visibility of the stop signs on Warrenville Road. But I still think something that is during the day. My concern is the health and safety of a whole bunch of school children that are going that way and crossing that road with drivers that just plain don't see the sign. And whether it's aesthetics or anything, the health safety issue there is my most important feature.
Alderman Bevere?
Yeah, just a couple comments. When I was in the sign shop, we installed in Wheaton it's a round light that goes on top of the stop sign. It's not real bright, but it gets everybody's attention. And that it's not annoying like the LED ones, so that could be an option. And they're run by solar. And it's something the street department could install themselves. It goes right on top of the Telspar. And so that's one option there. And then we did put, on the Telspar, they make strips that are red. So you have your stop sign and a red strip, and it really stands out a little bit, helps. In the county, when they started installing them, it reduced their signs getting hit by 40%. So it's just a couple ideas. Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Number 5, consideration of agreement with Ducom to add equipment to the city water tower. Again, this is Deputy Public Works Director Phil Kukler.
Thank you. Ducom approached city staff about a year ago looking to add additional equipment to one of our water towers. I believe it's the one at Maycliff and Warrenville Road. And as we went back and reviewed the existing agreement from 2004, there wasn't a particularly complete or descriptive list of what equipment they had and where it was. They've got equipment on some of our water towers. They've got equipment on top of the police department, and trying to get a better handle on that and understanding what they have where on our facilities was important to us. And we went through and reviewed that agreement. And we worked with the city attorney and Ducom staff to develop a memorandum of understanding that will replace the 2004 agreement. It's got a much more complete list. They put together a spreadsheet it's pretty descriptive as far as where their equipment is, what it is, and that. And then it's going to be a better agreement, a more detailed agreement that we can both refer to going forward. And typically when, whether it be Ducom or these wireless carriers come onto our property to work on their stuff on our property, we require a building permit. So the agreement, Ducom reached out to me last Friday after the agenda was put together and asked to add a couple of points into the agreement. One being that we waive building permit fees for anything they do, and generally the building permit submittals are fairly simple. That they've got their scope of work, they show what they're doing, where they're doing it, and we just want some documentation of what they're doing on our property and when they're doing it, so we have a record of that. And then they also asked that there be a 30-day maximum placed on the building permit reviews, which generally I turn these around in a week when they get submitted. I can't see them going any longer than 2 weeks, so I don't object to adding that language into there. So what I propose to do is to update the agreement for next week's city council meeting to include that language that they asked to be in there. And at this point, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions on this MOU.
Any questions? Okay. We need Alderman Ashour.
I'd like to recommend the city council pass a resolution repealing the existing agreement and approve a new memorandum of understanding between the city and Ducom.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, number 6, consideration of bid letting and construction engineering for 2019 construction projects prior to approval of the FY 2020 budget. Deputy Director, Public Works Director, Phil Kukler.
Thank you. This has become an annual process where we come, it's turned to every February now, to come to you and ask to go out to bid early on these projects because we get more favorable prices if we get out to bid in March, April, before contractors are all booked up with projects. We tend to get better prices on especially our road program, but we've done it with sewer projects too. In this case, it's our annual road program and the Warrenville Road reconstruction project that we'd like to get out to bid before the budget's officially approved in April. And associated with that too, we'd ask our consultants for construction engineering contracts that would be presented at the same time as the award for these two projects. I think the only other thing I wanted to say, and I think I covered in my presentation, was that the road program often is spread out throughout the city. In this case, it's primarily centered on Emerald Green because there's a lot of roads there, and we are completely replacing curb and gutter, doing a significant amount of patching, and they're replacing street lights. So that is essentially the whole road program project. I think the only other road that we're dealing with is a little piece of Stafford here that's between Warren and heading toward Batavia Road, where the curb is in horrible shape there. And in looking at the trailhead conceptual plans, that trailhead project wouldn't really touch that area, so we want to get the curb and gutter replaced, sidewalk replaced in that area, because it's not in good shape right now. And we'll patch the roadway and resurface the roadway later on when we resurface the rest of Stafford. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this issue.
Alderman Weidner?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion, seeing that we've done this on an annual basis for a few years. Motion to accept staff recommendation and authorize staff to advertise for bids for the 2019 road program and Warrenville Road reconstruction project prior to formal approval of the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Number 7, consideration of IDOT local agency agreement for the Mack Road Bridge and Path project. Phil Kugler.
Thank you. The city has a surface transportation program funding commitment for the Mack Road Path, which is going to go from 59 to the McKee Marsh, and that we have as part of that funding commitment, they fund the construction portion of it. We're responsible for the engineering. So we currently have a $75,000 contract for the preliminary design of that path. And we're about $57,000 into that, and as part of that design, the bridge was inspected and it was determined the bridge needs to be replaced. So we then paused the project to go seek bridge funding. We've got a funding commitment for the bridge funding, which is through the STP bridge program. And that program does fund design engineering. So we had the consultant propose an amendment to their agreement, which is for $23,852, and the STP bridge program will fund 80% of that. So we'll only be responsible for just under $6,000 of that part of the contract. This local agency agreement that's in a standard IDOT form, included with the agenda backup materials, documents that cost sharing, and has been reviewed by IDOT District 1 and is currently down at Springfield, but I'm getting reviewed, a final review by them. But as part of this, we need to approve the agreement. We need to include a resolution with our documentation to send down there once the agreement's signed, and then IDOT will sign off on it. So we're trying to work concurrently with IDOT so we save a little bit of time rather than waiting however long it takes them to review and get back to us. From Springfield, we'll have this done. Generally, IDOT District 1 catches any changes, or the changes tend to be in the funding amounts and that kind of stuff. They catch that up front, so I don't expect comments from Springfield that would change this agreement at all. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, I was wondering about one of the numbers in this, and I have a thought about what the possible answer might be, but I thought I might as well just ask you, why is the preliminary engineering for the path so much more than for a whole bridge?
The path project came first, so a lot of the preliminary engineering for the bridge and the path would overlap. So a lot of the work that might have been included if it was just a bridge project was already included in the path preliminary engineering. So now we're essentially updating the project development report for the preliminary engineering to incorporate the bridge and add that information to it.
Okay, so the 75,000, that includes the 50-some thousand we've already spent, and then the 29,000, which is the preliminary engineering just for the bridge, is the only part that's eligible for STP funds.
Yes, the bridge portion, the bridge program pays for preliminary engineering, final engineering, and construction engineering in addition to the construction. The STP Surface Transportation Program, the funds we had for the path, DMMC, who helps administrate that locally, their approach and their methodology is not to fund preliminary and final engineering for projects. They have adjusted and will fund some construction engineering now with the construction project, but not the design engineering.
Okay, but still, it seems $75,000 for engineering a path and $29,000 for engineering for a bridge sounds off.
Yeah, it's not totally engineering the bridge, though, at this point. You're identifying that the bridge needs to be replaced. You're getting some really basic information about the bridge to incorporate into the overall project design report for the path project. So if we were to just go with the bridge, that number would be much higher if there wasn't the path project already started and they hadn't already gathered information and spent a lot of time meeting with IDOT and some of this background work that they've already done as part of the $75,000.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Weidner?
Yeah, this is going to be a great opportunity for residents to connect to the West Branch Regional Trail, which leads to Will County. And also, I think the Forest Preserve has plans to extend the regional trail from Blackwell into West DuPage Forest Preserve, and it'll carry on through up to Bartlett. So there'll be a trailway that this sleeve will allow Warrenville residents to access 26 miles, I think it is, of trailways on their bicycles. And I think that's very significant and a great improvement. And make a motion to recommend the City Council pass a resolution approving the local agency agreement for federal participation for the Mack Road Path and Bridge Replacement Project, which involves the cost sharing of $23,852 in federal funds and $81,409 in local funds for the preliminary engineering costs.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. On to number 8, consideration to accelerate the water meter transmitter replacement program. Deputy Public Works Director Phil Kukler.
Thank you. My last item, hopefully it'll get done, this item will get before 9 o'clock. That's my goal here. I touched on this during my presentation, but we had a 5-year program that was approved as a decision package. We're in year 2 of that right now to replace the 4,500 water meter transmitter units. They're Aclara, right? The old ones are Aclara. We're going with Neptune, which is also the manufacturer of the meters that we use in town. We learned recently that Verizon is discontinuing its 3G network sometime in the next 12 months or so, and the 4 collector stations that are associated with the Aclara network use the 3G network, and they would need to be upgraded, and it would cost, we have a proposal that's approximately $15,000 to upgrade all 4 of those. And in talking over with staff, we have the ability to expand our program for the rest of this fiscal year, and then it would be slightly expanded for next fiscal year as well to just knock out the water meter transmitter unit replacements all by the end of fiscal year 2020, and just have it be a 3-year program. We wouldn't have to spend the $15,000 to upgrade those collector units. Our experience with the new water meter transmitter units is that their install is very quick. It's the old units used to have to take a computer out there with you and help program them in the field, and it took some time. These new units, you hook them up, you wave a magnet over it, and they're going, and they start collecting. And it's quicker than even we thought it would be. So it's been a tremendous time savings from that perspective. And in talking with our utility division staff, they're confident they're the ones who gave me the schedule to be able to expand the program this year and for next year. So I'd recommend that we accelerate from 5 years to 3, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this.
Alderman Goodman.
I make a motion to recommend City Council direct staff to accelerate the water meter transmitter unit replacements from a 5-year program to a 3-year program.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, number 9, consideration of a revised military leave policy. This is Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Thank you. Last year, the Illinois Service Member Employment and Reemployment Rights Act was passed effective January 1st, 2019, which requires us to update and amend our military leave policy that we have in our personnel manual. Included in the agenda backup material is a memo from me dated February 5th with the language of that new military leave policy. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but this is something that the state has already approved, and we just need to comply, obviously.
Alderman Goodman.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the City Council adopt the revised policy effective immediately and direct staff to incorporate the revisions into the next update of the Employee Personnel Manual.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. 10, consideration of revisions to the city's safety policies. Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Thank you again. The Safety Committee has begun reviewing safety policies for adoption, and the one that is included in the backup material is the Safety Committee policy, which documents the purpose, the structure, and the roles of the Safety Committee members. They have already vetted and reviewed this policy, and we're effectively recommending that the committee recommend approval to the City Council. This is the first of many safety policies that will be coming forward. Eventually, all of these safety policies will be incorporated into a new revised safety manual, but we are asking the council to review and approve each individual policy so that we can distribute them across the city and also train on them as we approve them versus trying to do that all at one time and asking everybody to review an entire manual worth of policies again. I'm happy to answer questions.
Alderman Ashour.
I'd like to recommend the city council adopt the safety committee policy effective immediately.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 11, consideration of a resolution endorsing the legislative program of the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference for the 2019 legislative session. City Administrator Coakley.
Thank you. As you all remember, in past years, the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference annually adopts a legislative action program and then asks its member communities, of which Warrenville is one, has been for many decades, to adopt a resolution to show support that gives some extra, I don't know if the word gravitas is exactly right, but it shows extra support from all of its members when the representatives of DMMC are meeting with legislative representatives and senators from the area. As you recall, the mayor and I and sometimes the aldermen go downstate to meet with them at the Springfield Drive Down, but there's also meetings in the area in the district. And annually, the conference holds a dinner with legislators. We had quite a good attendance from them this year. We also hold some coffees with legislators to talk to them about these issues. The primary themes are laid out here if you remember, in years past, there used to be long booklets with detailed explanations. They've really, in the last couple of years, made it a lot more user-friendly, so someone can look at this, get the idea of the gist of what the conference is trying to accomplish on behalf of its member municipalities. And then there's always more information if someone needs it. But I think it's probably better than me reading it, is just answering any questions that there may be. And then if you're amenable, ask that you recommend the resolution to the council.
Alderman Goodman.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to the DMMC for making it easier and shorter and more concise and more user-friendly this year. In past years, I've taken issue with some of the details and also with some of the partisan nature of these recommendations, and I really appreciate how well they did this year in making it a bipartisan, even-handed set of recommendations that I think we can all support. So I would like to make a motion to recommend that the City Council pass a resolution endorsing the DMMC municipal legislative positions and priorities for the 2019 legislative session.
Second.
A motion and a second. Alderman Widener.
Now, while we're on the subject, I don't have any objection regarding what they're putting forward here, but I do have a legislative action suggestion, and I don't know if the mayors and managers take those, but there's been an increasing number of outside marketing and advertising calls that come into landlines and cell phones, and what they do is somehow they adopt the prefix 393 of a Warrenville number, and you may recognize it even as someone you know, and you inadvertently, or you think it's someone you know, you pick up, and then you're hit with spam advertising and marketing. And I don't know whether this is a state legislation effort or how this could be minimized, but it seems like there ought to be a law, to protect us. And so that would just be my suggestion going forward. If it could ever be brought up under discussion with the mayors and managers, I would think everyone would find it somewhat irritating to get these calls, through their landlines and cell phones. Thank you.
Administrator Coakley?
Certainly, we can pass that along to them and ask the legislative committee. It might not get into action this year because they're already in the session, but we've got future years coming up and always can be brought up. And you're absolutely right at the end. You talked about the cell phones. I get no end of ones that start with 918, like all of our city prefixes. I'm like, this must be an important call. It's got a city, must be one of the city people, but there's no name on it, and they're never actually a city call, and they're not important. So thank you. We'll pass that along.
Alderman Ashour, you had a question? Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Discussion of the FY 2020 citywide work plan. Administrator Coakley.
Thank you. We have brought back the citywide work plan, again, as promised. I will note on the dais, there is an updated, one of these packets that's not a copy of the presentation. There's a memo from our Assistant City Administrator, and there are some changes to it. After going through all the budget meetings with the departments at the end of January, some of the projects that were planned by the departments, we've looked at whether we can scale them back or delay them. So those would affect their departmental work plans and in a couple of cases affect the citywide work plan. So there are some modifications on here. I want to make sure we drew those to your attention. And those just got made, well, they really got updated today. We were looking at those to make those changes over the week, the end of the last week after the agenda packet got published. So I don't know if we want to go through those or if you want to just ask questions about them. It's getting late and you're tired of me talking. Just a guess.
Questions? Alderman Bevere?
Yeah, just one question. The Manning Avenue parking and pedestrian, it's removed. Does that mean it's moved to a different, or is it removed totally? That's where the parking is, right by the two buildings where it's real steep, and I just wouldn't, I hope it's moved to another area, not taken out totally.
I don't believe it is being delayed, not removed. I don't have the year. In fact, I'm not on the right page yet. I don't know if Phil can fill in on that. We'll do a tap in here.
It's
on the
being
front page.
It's being delayed. Yeah, it's removed from the current year work plan. And we're not working on it. If you look at my department work plan, it's in the bottom where we're not, the very last section, it's projects we're not working on this year. So it's still, I could put it down there so it's something that doesn't fall off the radar, but it's something we're delaying from and not working on this year.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments? Alderman Widener, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, there was one, I can't seem to locate it now, that had something to do with outreach and communications. I think that was removed or pulled into a lower tier. Trying to find that now, but it just seemed like that kind of project would go hand in glove with the city website redesign. And I just wondered whether it could be merged with that project or not. That's all. Thanks.
Oh, Assistant City Administrator White.
Thank you. That item is on the document that's at the end of your packet called Citywide Work Plan Completed Initiatives. It's a Tier 3 item that was removed from the Citywide Work Plan. It's actually number 2 on that list. So that has not been removed completely. We are just pushing that item until we complete the citywide services and staffing study to incorporate that as part of that bigger project.
That then wouldn't be, make sense to merge with the citywide website project where you're developing an outreach mechanism that's going to be available for the citizens that would kind of merge with that?
In this case, so the city website is an avenue that we use to communicate, but this project or item specifically, we were looking at mechanisms to expand how we communicate. Back to Alderman Goodman's point during my presentation, every person in the community is going to have a different preference about how they receive information. That is a level of service that we currently are not able to provide because we don't have a dedicated person managing our communication strategy to come up with all of the various techniques, looking at Twitter, looking at expanding social media, looking at expanding the paper, newsletter, the different mediums that we use to communicate with our residents and with the public. So that item specifically is looking at that broader overall communication and outreach to the community and the various different mediums that we can use to do that, and whether or not that level of service requires a specific additional staff member to do that level of service.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, that was a informational only. And then on to number, where are we? We are number 13, informational update on Public Works Department FY19 work plan and decision packages. Are there any questions regarding that? Okay. That is also information only. Then finally, we're on to the final item, informational update on Public Works service levels and staffing study. That's also information only. Questions? Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Management Analyst Miller for the progress on this study and for how many of these items have really moved along. I do want to ask that there be an updated project completion date for things that said 2018, because obviously those aren't going to be completed in 2018. But other than that, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we have nothing under miscellaneous, nothing for closed session this evening, and all we need is a motion to adjourn. Alderman Goodman?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned, so everybody be careful going home.